What is a vintage port wine?
Well, according to my father, it's the king of the ports. It's a special wine that is only made in special years, so in only the best vintages, and therefore it's a quite rare wine.
Is it different from the usual port wine, tonics and so on?
Well, in fact, it's the wine that is, or the port that is aged the least in wood. It's bottled earlier than any other port, and therefore I think it's the most authentic of the ports. It's the wine that is the least manipulated, and since there is no new wood used, I think it's the wine that expresses the best the Douro character, the region, the vineyards where the port actually comes from.
In 2009, you are going to bottle the 2007 vintages. Is it a good wine, a special wine? Is it different?
I like it very, very much. I can't say that 2007 is a classic vintage, or it's not a classic year. 2000 as a year was quite different from what we consider usually to be a classic year for making a great vintage port. Usually we associate great years with extreme hot weather, very dry conditions. So the very concentration and the very different situations produce an extreme wine. 2007 was not like that. It was a year where the yields were very low, which helps us in the concentration. It provokes that we have very intense wines, but it rained more than usual, and during the harvest it was never really extremely hot. So the harvest time was actually later than usual, and therefore we had extremely good conditions for making very balanced wines. And the result is a vintage 2007, which I think is brilliant because of its harmony, not of the extreme power. So we have an 2007 which is very tannic, but it's not really aggressive. It's quite dark in color. It's not extremely fruity, but it has a great harmony between the alcohol, the sugar, and the strength of the tannin. And harmony is what I would describe the typical great character of a year like 2007. I still think that 2005 is probably the best we have done, but we have been going more and more trying to make wines which are more refined. And in that sense, I think it is the best. It's a wine which has more perfection than 2005. It's, for me, more perfect than 2003, which is bigger. But I think what will make this wine so great is the harmony and the complexity of all the components. So in many aspects, I think it's probably the most perfect wine that I have done, yes.
I have been told that you are preparing a vintage called Pisca. What is that? What Pisca stands for?
Well, Pisca is a vineyard. It's a vineyard that has been extremely important for us. It has been always part of our vintage port since the 40s. In those days, of course, we were buying in the ports, so we didn't make it ourselves. Since 2003, we have a contract with the owner, and since 2003 we actually took over the vineyard and make the wine ourselves. But in 2003, when we took it over, it was in very bad condition. I mean, we produced something like 5,000 liters in 5 hectares. So having low yields is one thing, but this is almost ridiculous. And so we've been invested a lot of time and money into shaping up the vineyard. And we are very happy now. We have a organic vineyard, and the yields were like 15,000 liters in 2007. And so we decided to keep a small part aside, and we are thinking of bottling it separately. We are going a step further. We want to make it even more authentic in the sense that sort of back to the future. With Niepoort, we have been trying to copy what my grandfather did. And here we want to go a step further, and all the wine will be aged in pipes. We will probably bottle it later than anybody else. We don't know the time yet. We just have to taste it and see the right moment. But it's a small adventure. It's a special wine. We believe in blending. Our tradition is the blending. But having said that, Piška is something very special, and we want to keep the picture of this vineyard by bottling it separately.